I've been commentating and watching EACS over the last few weeks, the first ever European African tournament in preparation for Africa's participation in the Call of Duty Mobile World Championships later this year. Africa has finally been eliminated from EACS as we approach the semi-finals today, so I figured now's the best time to assess the impact that Africa has had on the competition. Now, disclaimer here, I am by no means an expert on African Call of Duty Mobile. This is purely a review of Africa's performance in EACS. It's not an exhaustive summary of Africa as a region. That is something that I'll be delving in a little bit deeper into after the African finals and when we know which team will be making it to champs. I'll be doing a lot of content around all of the regions heading up to Stage 5 later this year. Let's talk then about EACS. On the whole, Africa's performance wasn't that great. In total, 16 teams entered EACS, 8 from Europe and 8 from Africa. And in the end, only 2 African teams actually made it into the final bracket. Before we talk about those teams that made it to playoffs though, we should back up a bit, because one team did qualify, but didn't actually play in playoffs. Monarchs. Monarchs made the first real splash from any African team all the way back in week 1, beating Exclusive 2-0, and it wasn't even close. They won the hardpoint 250-103, and when we got to the Coastal Search and Destroy, they managed to close out the best of 3 2-0 with a 7-3 victory. This was an incredible performance for any team for Africa. Taking down the second best team in Europe is a hell of a feat, and it made a massive impression from the African region right out of the gate back in week 1. Looking out towards standout players from that series, you already start to see some talent coming out from Africa, with the likes of Nundi performing very well in the hardpoint and Benz playing very well across both the hardpoint and the Search and Destroy. That very first victory was proof that Africa had the sauce. Despite that incredible victory, Monarchs would then go on to lose to Troglodyte Tribe. A letdown considering this was before TT even picked up Sixelfi and Kirby. And most disappointingly of all, Monarchs would later drop out of the competition. Outside of that, only 2 teams from Africa actually made it to playoffs: Paradox and Instinct. Paradox had swiftly pushed through Eternals and Maven in Group A, pretty much guaranteeing qualification to playoffs right out the gate at the end of week 2. But when it came down to facing NRW International, they fell with little resistance, a sign that they might not be Africa's shining hope. Instinct had more of a battle within their group. They thrashed fellow African squad Nonagon, but then they lost easily to Animus. Not much of a surprise given that Animus are the number 1 squad in Europe. In the final match of group play, they faced a fierce battle with Revenge that came down to a Game 3, Round 5 control. They came out victorious and secured a spot in groups. Monarchs falling apart left Africa much weaker going into playoffs, and it didn't look like anybody would challenge the Europeans. Until Paradox took on Ace Esports Club. Ace are one of the teams to watch, not just to win EACS, but potentially even Stage 4 in Europe. Ace is a European Garena hybrid, consisting of some of Europe's most potential field players, such as Fahim, Inferno, and Daijin, alongside rising stars from Garena in Crush, Badman, and Shove. Similarly to India's Team Vitality in 2024, this team was designed to qualify for champs. The matchup between Ace and Paradox was incredibly close. Ace broke the rules in Map 1, leading to a forfeit that started Paradox off on the right foot. From there, Paradox pushed Ace to their limits, winning the takeoff control owing to an offensive round win in round number 1. The hardpoint that was played came down to a 56-point victory for Ace, and although both Search and Destroys did go to overtime, Ace came out on top, owing to some crucial clutches from Fahim. It's hard not to think about the fact that Paradox would probably be in the semi-finals right now, were it not for Fahim. Instincts didn't fare much better. Their opponents were a Pack-a-Punch Troglodyte Tribe, now with former UEC champion Sixelfi and Snapdragon Pro Series European Pro Kirby on the squad. Instinct came out incredibly slow, being utterly dominated in hardpoint before letting the Search and Destroy run away from them. Instinct finally woke up in control, preventing TT from clutching up and walking away with a 3-0 win. It looked like Instinct were going to push their European opponents to a Game 5, but disaster struck. Reaching a 217 to 159 lead going into P2 on the final set of rotations, Instinct were allowed just 13 points before TT broke into the hill. A fatal error from Instinct was made. Just 20 points shy of forcing a Game 5, Instinct would full hit scrap time and lose, allowing TT to perfectly rotate offenses per P3. What followed was an almost perfect hold from TT, as Instinct scrambled to break. One decision led Instinct to lose and be eliminated from the competition. And with that, Africa was done. So with that then, the final 4 teams in EACS are all European. Looking back, just how competitive was Africa? Looking towards those final 2 performances from Instinct and Paradox, it's become clear that Africa has massive potential to be competitive. That sure, it's a relatively shallow talent pool at the moment, but I think it's fair to describe these teams as diamonds in the rough. Players like Charisma from Instinct, Daniello from Paradox, or Benz from Monarchs show that Africa has talent, it just needs more time to be refined, and more practice against better teams. EACS was an excellent opportunity for us to gauge what Africa is capable of, but it was also a good opportunity for Africa to get their feet wet against better regions, starting with European squads, before they go on to face absolute titans in China, Garena, and India later this year at Champs. But it's also worth saying that if Europe is struggling in that department, then Africa right now has even further to go. We've barely scratched the surface with Africa at the moment. Stage 3 for Africa is currently ongoing right now with Carry1st, with teams from Senegal, Uganda, and Egypt all already qualified for the African finals. There's still a lot of talent left to be talked about. I'll be watching and creating content over those teams after African finals, but if you want to keep up with everything going on African Call of Duty Mobile, you can do so by tuning in to those Carry1st broadcasts. As of this video, there's still a few qualifiers to go, so make sure you tune in if you're interested in keeping up with African Call of Duty Mobile. And of course, Africa might be eliminated, but EACS isn't over. 4 teams, Animus, Ace, Trogdolite Tribe, and NRW International still remain. I'll be commentating the semi-finals later on today, as well as the best of 7 grand finals on Sunday night. We've got some brilliant talent on board, including Major Chafing, Narski, and Verdict over the next 3 days. It's going to be epic, trust me. You guys aren't going to want to miss it. And if you do want to tune into any of the action, you can do so over at the Atlas YouTube channel or on their Twitch channel. I'll be linking both in the description down below. Massive shout out to UEC and Atlas, by the way, for putting on EACS over the last few weeks. It's been epic, and I imagine the last 3 days are also going to match that. Well, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for all the support of this last week over this channel. It's been awesome to see, and I really appreciate it. If you did like today's video, make sure you do hit that like button and subscribe for more Call of Duty Mobile content in the future. It's going to be a crazy 3 weeks and months ahead of us with Chinese Masters, and then of course Stage 3 and Stage 4 and Stage 5 of the Call of Duty Mobile World Championships over the next few weeks and months. So make sure you stay tuned on this channel, because I'm going to be producing a lot of content around all of that. Again, thank you everybody for tuning into this video, and we'll see you in the next one.